Scenes. And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Good evening, and thank you for remotely attending the City Council meeting. The camera in the council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You'll notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to give them their opportunity to address council. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Here.
Councilor Dillabaugh,
Here.
Councilor Fisher,
Here.
Councilor Kennedy, here, Councilor Powers,
Here.
Councilor Reish,
Here.
Councilor Scamperly,
Here.
quorum present.
We do not have any presentations tonight, and we do not have any public hearings tonight. So this brings us to personal appearance. At this time, if anyone's attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. City clerk will recognize you and unmute one person at a time, and you'll have 5 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Phil Clemens, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, sir. I believe Mr. Clemens may have hit it in error. He is showing non-responsive. Would you like me to move on, Mayor?
Yes.
I do not see any other hands raised.
And this brings us to correspondence. Do we have any?
We do not.
Now, next, we have our consent agenda that the claims is enumerated in general fund warrant number 21-2021 in the amount of $430,867.51, and library warrant number 21-2021 in the amount of $9,104.90, and capital fund warrant number 21-2021 in the amount of $1,445,313.85, and community development fund warrant number 21-2021 in the amount of $76.07, and community renewal number 21-2021 in the amount of $0, as audited, be and the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
I'll second.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Councilor Dillabaugh,
Yes.
Councilor Fisher,
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilor Powers,
Yes.
Councilor Reish,
Yes.
Councilor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
We do not have any appointments tonight, so this brings us to items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A resolution to adopt the 2022 preliminary budget as amended. Therefore, resolution to adopt the City of Augsburg's 2022 budget. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Augsburg adopts the 2022 preliminary budget as hereby amended. And be it further resolved that the following rates shall be in effect for 2022. City's real property tax rate for 2022 shall be blank at this time. Any discussion? Councilors, I tried to summarize the anything that had been sent to our office. I think I captured most everything. The preponderance of things on the request for modification to proposed budget came from our office as we went through and made additional cuts to areas to be able to offset some expenses, add the potential for 2 more police officers that was discussed, and made some adjustments to revenue. I provided this sheet tonight as a summary to get you started. Council certainly can choose to adopt it as it is and or make modifications. Kathy will keep the record for the final document, and that's what you would adopt for your modifications.
So I think first the council needs to amend the preliminary budget, correct? So before we adopt it as amendment, we have to have a resolution to amend, I think.
If you're going to, yes, right? These I'm giving you are just things that I put together. This is basically a tool for you to use. You can use none of it. You can use all of it. You can modify it. You can do whatever. So if you're making a motion to amend, you can amend it again to everything that's here or whatever changes you want to make, et cetera.
So I would make a motion to amend the preliminary budget based on this 4-page summary that's been provided to everybody in the public, I presume. Yeah, that would be my motion so that we can actually adopt the budget based on that.
I'll second it.
So would this be the final amendment or can we add some more things?
Well, we can talk more. This is just to get going.
So the preliminary amendment or the
Yes.
first amendment?
Yes.
So this is just an amendment to include the documents that we received at the end of last week.
Correct.
Okay.
We never really voted on that, the budget that you gave us. I don't understand why we have to do an amendment, we just accepted it.
Right. We accepted it as his proposed budget and then from
You're
that
amending.
point, we amend.
We didn't vote on it. So why would we have to amend that? I don't know.
No, technically, we did because by accepting it.
By accepting it, you did.
And
because-
we agreed that, what it is, it's a stepping stone to the finished product, which I don't see any major stumbles. So,
Because basically, when you accept the preliminary budget, you accept the fact that if you can't agree to necessary changes by the 15th, that his preliminary budget automatically becomes the said budget if you don't agree to make the amendment. So basically, that's all it is. You accepted it. Now we can make any necessary changes.
and if we can't agree,
And then it
then the
becomes the
15
budget.
hits and it is the budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're making it, you made a proposal to amend it that this is the new preliminary budget for now. And we can still continue to discuss things.
Right.
Correct. And you seconded it. Okay. You can call the question.
Is it all done with discussion?
Well,
So-
we're still going to discuss to make more amendments.
We're just moving the amendment to discuss the
You're just moving it.
proposed changes, the amendments, and we'll further discuss the budget through the amendment process.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Kathy, do we have that correct before we move forward? Because I feel like there's a little bit of confusion.
So this would be to accept the amended preliminary budget, basically in simple terms.
No, we're amending the preliminary budget. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're not adopting it, though. We're amending it.
Let me
And
take
then
a
we're
stab
gonna
at it.
Discuss it before we adopt.
Let me take a stab at it. If I don't satisfy it, Kathy will fill in the blank. So we've given you this sheet as a work product. So by opening, you don't really have to do anything to this sheet. I've given you this. You all should look at this. If there's something, you can use this as if it's a blank sheet. Add to it, subtract from it, accept what's on here, whatever. You should just work through this now and then ultimately make amendments. So just for instance, if you wanted to reject the first line, you all would go through and someone would make a motion to
So-
reject the first line.
So we don't need to actually accept the changes. We're just going to discuss the
Yes,
changes
yes,
now.
you do, because you introduced your preliminary budget and the charter says we can amend it. So we're trying to amend it.
Right.
Only the council can amend it. You can't. You submitted your preliminary budget.
Right. And I've just given you, this is
That's right.
just a work product is all this is. I've given you this as kind of a summary. These aren't necessarily my proposals. This is just me summarizing for you
Correct.
some things that need to occur.
Correct.
So really you can start your debate at any time. You can debate what's on here. You can add if you want to. I would just go down the table and, right, Kath?
The resolution before you, if you look at it, it says as amended. So it's been introduced by Counselor Reach, seconded by Counselor Fisher. At this point in time, council should just discuss whatever changes they intend to make. And when
Oh.
you vote on this, it will be accepting the preliminary as amended.
Yeah, there was a resolution on the floor, but I introduced another resolution.
Just pull it. Just pull it.
So my resolution is to amend.
Okay.
Based on these, it's been seconded. Can we vote on that?
To amend the preliminary
Yes.
proposed budget, yes. Okay. Without
Mayor,
adopting the budget.
That's right.
Right.
And
So initially, this would be a motion to amend,
Correct.
introduced by Counselor Reese, seconded by Counselor Fisher.
Correct.
Counselor Fisher,
But does not mean that you're accepting the budget.
this is
Correct.
a motion to amend.
Okay, I just
Yes.
wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yeah, I think it's redundant, but yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
No.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
approved.
All right.
So now we can have discussion on the resolution before us, which is to adopt based on the amendments, but we have discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page before we.
So
So
your adjustment, I suppose I could, if I can. Steve, your adjustments here are proposed adjustments. They're not necessarily, this is what you're looking at to change these certain lines going forward in the proposed budget. And not only the and revenues and the general fund appropriations, but the water and sewer as well. Nothing else.
That's correct, Counselor.
So we just changed it.
So with that being said, how did you come up with the $3 million in sales and use tax?
The preliminary proposed budget was 2.952554, Counselor. We simply rounded it up to make our numbers work out. And again, just based on our projections where we think sales tax is going to be. We had a pretty intense formula that we used to get the 2.952. Based on that, we think we'll be, give or take that, $250,000 either way. So we rounded it to 3 million.
So but you're suggesting it previously, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the last meeting where Mrs. Gray went over it, we're projecting 939 of it to be was it a 6.4% interest through January and April? That's minus the preempting?
No, Counselor, this right now would be our total sales tax revenue for what we project for the year, which
I understand that, but the original number, the 2952554, came with the 939 or 900. I got 939,000. Suggested that 6.4 of it percent was written or was to be calculated from January to April minus the preemption.
right, January to March, Counselor, but yes.
I'm sorry. What did I say?
January to April, but it's okay. So January to March, first quarter.
Well, March 31st, correct. Yeah. I'm sorry. All right. So I'm fair to, that's fairly accurate, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. I guess, I just soon see $2 million, proposed there, and anything we get after that is just gravy, right? I see how you rounded it up. I don't want to put the cart before the horse with the 939, but I guess I was just kind of curious as to why you went up instead of bringing it down. That's just my
Yeah, so we're on track this year with our current formula to be at about 4.6 million. Again, our prediction and our projection based on 9 months, 3 quarters of preempted revenue being less, and then the 1 quarter being higher. But again, the 47,446 was an act of rounding the revenue up. No other real significant reason. I don't think we should or need to go lower. I think that's a pretty conservative number at this point. I think right now we're in good position with the money in the fund balance, and as we nearing the end of this fiscal year, looking like a fairly decent surplus being set up. So I feel like if there is a shortfall in sales tax, we'll be tracking it monthly. We'll be able to make it up there without a lot of difficulty.
I guess my concerns going forward, I think I addressed it in the last meeting, and the reason why I suggest a lower number is just based off the loss of jobs that we've had recently in the community and in the county, quite frankly. And I'm not looking to put the cart before the horse here with the aspect of preempting and getting that done. I have confidence that it'll get done, but I'm not one to sit on something that I can't foresee immediately in the future. But I see how you came to these numbers. I don't have any issue with how you came to the numbers. I just like to see that lower, and anything additional on top of that is just, in my opinion, just money in the bank. As far as anything else in that group, before you get into the general fund appropriations, obviously the arena revenues and the marina dock, I'm assuming that's just operational increases going forward. And I see that appropriated fund balance, utilized prior year fund balance for deficit, 143K. So that would be, all right, I see where, all right. So what of the SRO? I was under the impression we were going to have an SRO.
The school district has opted to use the sheriff's department in the coming year for their SRO. So they will have one, but it won't come from Ogdensburg PD. It'll come from St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Department. And quickly backtracking on the arena and our revenue, we recommended there, just based on some discussion, is a 10% increase to the arena rates and a 10% increase in the dock rental rates. Just want to counsel.
Do we have anything in from the school district related to them going with the sheriff's office? Anything documented? I'm under the impression, speaking with some of the school board members, that's not the case.
Well, they'll have to come to us with a request, I guess. We'll take it up at that time.
We didn't receive a request. I have not heard from the superintendent. I did reach out to him after the meeting. I heard he contacted Chief Kearns directly to let him know the school board had voted to do that.
So they've already voted on that?
Yes, sir.
So that number, the 96,525, seems to me the school board or the school paid for about 80% of that position. Is that correct?
No, sir. Last year when we were doing this, we informed the school they would have to pay the entire salary of the position. Obviously can't predict for legacy costs, but we'd increased it last year to cover the entire compounds of the position.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess when we go back to where we're on the topic of the police, I mean, while I think that adding 2 officers it's better than not adding anything. I really think that Chief Kearns made an excellent presentation to get them at 21. I think that was well thought out, and the way he presented it was without emotion, like you had said. It was very informative, and it really was just a direct. It was just the facts. I really think out of respect to the department, in respect to Chief Kearns, I think at 21, I think he was being very modest, especially with the crime and what we have going on. I would really implore everyone to really look at 21, because like they said, we're an entire year off of doing this manpower, and I don't see things improving to the fact that we need less officers on our streets. So my genuine request would be to at least get to 21, so that way Chief Kearns can build this department back, so then we become an entity where people want to come work for us. And I think that that's a show of faith for the officers that have stuck it out with us and haven't left, that we are listening, we do care about their well-being. And so I would like to put that out there for 21.
I'd like to second that. If we want to go line for line talking amendments, is that what we're doing?
No.
I think we should have.
Apparently. We'd be here all night.
Well, I mean, I don't think we have a whole lot of amendments, but that's one of them.
I just really think that, he didn't come at us with an outlandish number, a wish list. I think it was a genuine concern for the department. It wasn't, you know, a laundry list of things that I want. It was, I can make this work at the bare minimum. And I think that he's showing, you know, being fiscally responsible with the department by saying, I'd like this, but I can make this bare minimum work and, you know, provide a service to our citizens. And that's what I think is necessary.
So if we put up the 95,000 that it costs for an officer, right? I mean, when I looked at your numbers, it comes to about 85 to include pay, social security, health insurance, then probably another 10 or so for equipment, training and things. I think when Mr. Kearns gave his presentation, he was talking about 95 per guy. Would we expect overtime to decrease? Obviously, they'd have to stay in a 12-hour shift, but wouldn't that create a decrease in overtime if we got him the third guy?
I would say unless we're able to hire somebody this year who's fully trained from the police department, we likely won't see much, if any, return, just because they won't work for us until August or September.
Yeah, you won't see much difference this year.
Looking forward, it would be the step in the right direction to kind of right the ship in the sense that we have to act now in order to save, you know, 9 to 10 months from now to really be able to see the difference that those officers will make. And will we be able to get officers into the academy for this coming January? Is there a list ready to go? We could take 2 to 3 names off of it. Yeah.
We're working hard for that right now.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels, but
So I'll second that motion, add the other officer as an amendment.
Yeah, I think we just,
Do we really? I don't think we need motions. I think we just need to agree on a consensus. If you want to do it through motion form, that's fine as well. I'd like to add a little bit to that from Nicole. I, for one, wouldn't settle for anything less than 21. And my discussions with some members from the school is that they do want an SRO. They want it to be from Ogdensburg. I'm curious what contact, if they haven't reached out to us, have we reached out to them? When's our last communication with the school district? But going forward, my position is pretty clear that I would support the police at 21. And as was asked of Chief Kearns in his budget presentation, that 21 was his bare bones, and that's in a perfect world. That means, you know, no unexpected issues with any of our staff, our police, which would just be a driver for overtime. We're one incident or a use of force away from a workers' comp case or an injury that prevents somebody from working, or a disability for that matter, in the scheme of things. And going forward, you know, I'll accept 21 police officers and hire another one for the SRO.
well, we just lost 96,000 in revenue. Depending on the school resource officer, we're taking 143,000 from fund balance.
We're taking 533K from the ARPA money too, to balance our books. I think was the phrase used.
Yeah, I think what's been proposed with the amendment with the addition of 2 officers is, should be sufficient for 22.
I just think we need to be a little more forward thinking in the fact that, like Chief Kearns stated, like we're a year out from being operational on these issues. I just think that going forward, it really shows a good show of, you know, not only faith, but that, you know, the police department can trust us and that we are looking out for their best interest. And if we want to attract high caliber individuals to come work in Ogdensburg, we need to show them that, you know, we care about their mental health. We care about, you know, the conditions that they're working in. And, you know, we want to make sure that they have the numbers to be safe.
I'd also like to see more data on tickets issued and quality of life. I know pet peeve of mine last year was not only motorcycle exhaust, but I mean, truck exhaust. I mean,
I know, but a lot of those issues too, when they're running short staffed, I mean, you're looking at some of the issues they're facing. They're facing, you know, the domestics, the rape cases that when I saw those numbers, I was astounded as to what's going on. You know, active shooters that are going on, like in the grand scheme of those things, a loud exhaust doesn't seem like a big deal when they're quality of life issues, but we've got some major issues. And if we want them to be able to deal with the issues like a loud exhaust and pull people over for those tickets, they need to have the manpower to do it.
well, it's also proven, I think, that if quality of life issues aren't enforced, you get less crime, and that's been proven in New York City.
Yeah, you just need the officers to be able to write the tickets.
That's right. That's why we had it too, Nicole.
I think that, you know, out of respect for Chief Kearns, 3, if that's a modest ask.
Out of respect for the taxpayers, we can only afford so much.
I mean, I can look at 5 to 6 consultant lines. If we took 15 grand out of every consultant line in the budget, we could support the other police officer.
But I guess maybe Angela could answer this one for me. We got a sheet from you not too long ago that showed 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 at the police department and in all the departments, and how they in 21 to 22 to 23 to 24 was going to increase at least the city's cost over $100,000. So each year we do what you want to do, and you go to your numbers. But each year that goes by, we're adding $100,000 per year, and on the end of the fourth one, that's $500,000 above and beyond what we're even looking at. So are we going to bring in the third guy and possibly, like Mike said, as far as like the sales tax, who knows? And then tell him he's got to leave after he's just gotten done the
It'd
school?
be no different than that was done a year and a half ago.
I'll tell you what, if it wasn't done a year and a half ago, we'd have been in a lot worse situation, and things could have went south. COVID brought it in, the sales tax negotiations, the state aid, all that stuff that we were looking at there was no other way to move except to do preventative measures in order to make sure the city stayed afloat, and we had some services. So it's not what we did for you last year. We had no choice. And I think if you really think about it, it wasn't. And you've sat up here for 12 years, and sometimes you got to make those type of decisions. You can't wait to react. You have to react right then and there. And that was, it definitely the city could have went south, and we got lucky.
We've made them. I think it's a good time right now. We're sitting in a good position. I think bringing back that third officer is nothing compared to what we have for fund balance.
But what happens if the sales tax bites the dust? And we're sitting here January 1st and going, well, it's not a short haul of 1.4, it's 2 million.
Tax increase right now.
And you know as well as the tax decrease right now is because of the constitutional tax limit, and the reasons are debt, and the reason that's behind it. So just throwing that out there is not fair either, because
we've been correcting that very well, very well. And I think this citywide reval is going to probably take care of a lot of that as well.
We're 2 years out.
Reduce our constitutional tax limit. Yep.
You're not going to see anything for 2 years. And if all the dominoes fall, that the one falls, the rest are going too. So I think, like John says, I think the 2 is a fairly good compromise right now. The county's doing the SRO.
What proof do we have that the county's doing the SRO? Have we formally backed off?
I don't know. I just sat here and I just listened to the chief say, yes, the school board contacted him and they wanted to put somebody there.
What?
That was an affirmative from over there. So I don't know who else I should listen to.
Well, I can't see the chief from where I'm sitting. So with that being said, good to know.
So the school board does or does not want an SRO deal?
I believe they do want an SRO. I think that we had some discussion about potentially not doing it at a meeting that was the same night as one of their meetings. I think they picked up on some of that discussion. I told the superintendent clearly until the budget was through, I couldn't give him a definitive answer going forward when we lost our SRO. First of all, we just didn't have one. When our SRO went, we didn't have one. We didn't have anyone trained to do it. That's caused a gap in the service. The chief's proposal was to train at least 2 people, if not 3, going forward. So we have that issue again with someone leaving. We had others to cover, et cetera. So I can go back to the superintendent. Obviously, because of some recent actions going on, our communication might be a little less than cordial. So I'll circle back with him. I think his communication to Chief Kearns was clear. I did reach out to him as soon as I heard about the communication to Chief Kearns, and I didn't hear back from him. So I'll do it again.
Or you didn't?
I did.
Sorry. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. And I will, but I would say this, it is largely not an impactor of what you're talking about now, because the position would ultimately be going to the school to work. So I think if I had to come to you to modify the budget, it would also include revenue that would be coming with, but I don't believe that's going to be the case, but I certainly can follow back. I just, as you continue your debate, just Councilor Kennedy said something, I just want to follow up on it. To help offset the cost of the additional things that are being added here, I did go through and scrub each of the consultant lines, but I just want to make sure we're all clear on that. We don't really hire a lot of quote consultants as you think of consultants. The budget system gives us, titles and phrases to put in these lines. Where you see consultants, a lot is where we hire engineer staffs or things that are the studies that are required. We're not hiring people to kind of quote consult. And I know it seems a little misleading when you're reading these lines, but I'm not even sure right now about the only consultant that we have that I think was truly meet the definition of consultant would be and really that was funded by a grant, but the BOA marketing group, I would call that marketing, consultation and consulting. But so most of what you see here as consultant isn't really that. It's some sort of action, whether it's engineering, doing lead study, asbestos study, et cetera, things like that. But I did scrub those, Councilor Kennedy. That's really where I offset the cost as best I could of the increased items on here.
I'm happy with these changes, and I mean, if there's more discussion, fine, but I'd make a motion to adopt based on what we have before us at this time. I'm not trying to cut off discussion yet, but I'm happy with the way it is.
I mean, I guess I don't see why you can't go with an 8% tax decrease and hire another officer. I mean, you're still having a significant tax decrease and you're still getting
But
an extra officer.
I can explain to you that we have the highest tax rate.
You say it all the time and I
But you don't
understand it.
listen.
I do listen.
It matters to people.
It does.
So, but you don't look at that side of the equation. You have to look at that side of the equation.
You can still be well-rounded and see you can see the causes and effects of everything. I can still see a full circle of the picture and realize the difference between a 2% tax cut, 10% and an 8% if it funds another officer. I mean, I think that's worth it.
And you look at a statistic that from FBI analysis for the United States, and the average for 10,000 people for police officers is 17. We're giving them 20.
And they're not in Ogdensburg dealing with what Ogdensburg's dealing with.
Every community has that problem.
I
Haven't heard from you, Bill. What do you think?
Like the budget is the way she said.
Okay. So that's,
is John's motion to accept the budget as is, or
As
just
amended.
this part of what we just?
No, accept the budget as amended.
If there's no other items to discuss, we only want to do this once.
so I'd like to discuss firemen.
So can we just, was there a consensus, if you will, to change the police from 2 to 3 or leave it the same? What is here?
I would see it.
3.
I'm 2.
I'm a 3.
2. Mike?
None this year. That's my concern. We've lost a lot of money in sales tax. Like I told Chief Kearns, it's like I want more policemen, and I think next year, I think when revenue grows, revenue is the key to our city and the services that we want to provide, and, but we had a big loss. And, so, as I told them, next year, if revenue grew, I would support more officers. If it's a decrease, I don't.
Then there's no consensus. It's tied.
All right, so firemen. So based on this chart that we got in an email, $63,000 less money to have 20 firemen than it is to have 16. I think we should have 20 firemen and save the 63,000. $63,613 by these figures. Next year, it drops to 44,000. The following year, 24,900, and then in 2025, it's about $4,400 cheaper, and that's about the time the contract wears out. And they put $2 million of potential savings already on the table that we can renegotiate when the contract's up. But I think that when you're gonna save money at that level and have more firemen on duty, I think it's foolish not to have 20 firemen instead of 16 myself. So, I mean, you're saving money and you're increasing the safety of the city for that kind of money. It's,
I think we're gonna hire more people. I'd rather hire firemen or hire police officers than firemen.
well,
If
with
I'm
the
gonna hire
firemen, it saves us money. I mean,
I'm just saying.
you're gonna have 20 firemen instead of 16, and you're gonna save 63.6. Why wouldn't anybody do that?
So Counselor, there's some assumptions made in there about where the minimum manning is going to stay, how much we're going to continue to pay, et cetera. I would submit to you that I think without a significant math lesson, you understand that 16 will cost less than 20. There are some assumptions made there that we're going to continue to pay overtime. We're going to continue to keep manning there. I've been clear with the firefighters union all along. I'll continue to be clear. We'll have a decision whether we have to go to arbitration on a couple of remaining issues. If you'll all recall, 7 issues were brought forth by the firefighters. They've dropped 5 of those. We have 7 remaining. And based on what happens with those, will be what I'll bring to council and what our decision going forward will be. I'll just say it again for the purpose of being consistent. It's perks or personnel. At this very time last year, I gave them 24 people. A couple months later, I gave them 20. No dice on anything. We can't afford all the people and we can't afford their perks. You talk them out of the perks, I'll help you put their personnel back in there, but they're not keeping both.
I don't think overtime is a perk.
Overtime isn't a perk. Counselor, hazardous pay for when you're not, have hazard pay clause in there for daily staffing, for overall shift staffing, buying out excess amounts of leave at the end of the year, EMT stipends when you already have the list goes on, and you know what the perks are. So
Now that they've thrown those things on the table.
No, they didn't throw them on the table.
On the record, as a matter of fact.
No, they threw a couple on the table. I gave you the perks list. The perks list was clear. It's all the perk package or people. We can only afford the amount of money that we put forward in the budget. Firefighters could have had their way in this. If the personnel were that important to them this time a year ago, we still have them. We already hired them. We'd have bought out the senior members that wanted to go and we would have hired new people, but you can't have it both ways. Couldn't get any discussion out of them. Tried 3 times this year, as well as preparing the budget. Didn't even get a response this year, which is predictable, but don't even want to have a discussion about it. I can't help. We cannot afford the perks and the personnel. I've broken the back of the personnel maneuvers to try to shove the contract into taking management's rights away. I won't be successful. The perks, unfortunately, are pretty well locked up till the end of the contract. So the choice is clearly theirs now. You can talk them out of the perks. We can certainly talk about the personnel. We need the personnel. I wouldn't argue that more than we need the perks, but we can't afford both. We can't be painted into a corner.
But it's cheaper, right here by your.
It's not cheaper.
Chart.
No, it's not cheaper.
Why would you send this chart?
What's that?
Why would you send this?
I sent the entire chart because I'm pretty darn confident you had the chart long before I sent it. So that is what the firefighters submitted. I allow them to submit the information as they see it. It's based on a minimum staffing that they see going forward. I don't see us maintaining the minimum staffing that we're doing now. If in fact the issues continue to turn in our direction, I want to maintain a minimum staffing of 4 personnel. That is pretty difficult to do when you only have 4 people on a shift, but we can't afford the perks and the personnel. I would be willing to go to battle. I was willing to go to battle when the budget went forward, couldn't get them to respond. I asked you to help me with the matter. Something has got to give. We can't afford both. 20 personnel would be better than 6. You have a sheet for me that tells you what the personnel would look like. I'm not trying to convince you all that 16 is an optimal number. I told you what the numbers should look like. It would be a better, more efficient operation with more capability, with more people. No question about that. But it's what we can afford at this point in time. There are ways the fire department could cost less and be able to put resources into more personnel instead of paying significantly the way we're paying now. The hazard pay clause is just a good example right now. It's not a hazard pay clause. A hazard pay clause would be if you come to work and there's only X number of people on duty today and that number grows, there's a risk on the shift that you're on. This hazard pay clause is not a hazard pay clause. It's a job security clause. We've proven that. A judge agreed with us. But you can look at it on its face and see that just by having us pay more because we have less people assigned to a work group has nothing to do with firefighter safety. We're still keeping the minimum safety people on duty.
So you don't agree with these numbers that you said?
So I don't agree with them. I don't agree with the assumptions. Again, I submitted to you like all the other budgets. We didn't have a representative other than me from the fire department, but I let the fire department officers submit those numbers. So I sent you the information that I was given, just like I let every other department submit information. No, I don't agree that 20 firefighters will cost less than 16. I don't agree.
Well, that's what the numbers illustrate.
We will knock the overtime down significantly in the coming year from what it's been. I really thought there would be some greater desire based on the Supreme Court ruling for the firefighters union to work with us to create a more efficient model than we have. But I believe until we have ridden the court process to the bottom, they're not going to negotiate anything. I don't know why, quite frankly. If the city prevails in one more court ruling, I don't know why at that point in time we would negotiate anything. We will then just unilaterally do what we need to do because it doesn't make any sense to do what we've done. We could have negotiated this. Again, I remind all of you, we offered them their people back at this time last year. We offered to keep 24.
So I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Under our current budget, how many men do we expect to have on duty at once, firemen?
My intent was to maintain 4. With the current budget we have now and the overtime amounts and the hazard pay, we likely will be able to maintain a daily minimum staffing of 3 during peak vacation periods. I mean, again, there's 4 people on a shift. I mean, it's just math. How many people can we keep working? We're not going to pay endless overtime. That seems to be the latest catch is that, well, they'll just pay the overtime. No, we paid the overtime last year. I budgeted for it, knew we would have the money to cover it. Won't be able to keep doing that again. My budget reflects that. I would have really liked a different path here. I wish we were sitting here and I wish we'd had fire department discussion during the time that we presented the fire department budget, because I think we're hashing something we should have hashed a month ago, but it's doing it now, so as well.
All right, straw poll.
Yep.
OFD. I say 20. Anybody else?
I'll go with you. We know
Yep.
it's not going anywhere, but I'll go with you.
Absolutely.
You know, if I think the discussion's been good, but I think if we agree with each other or each one or the other, I don't think we need to be making remarks to go with it. I think whatever way it goes, or we could just
The
have a
only
motion.
remarks I've made is based off this chart. According to this chart, it's a lot cheaper. And I'm looking at the dollars, and not only the dollars, but the safety. 3 men can't fight a fire. You know that. What are you gonna do? You can't even go inside.
Well, we also don't we also have a pending appeal with no decision yet?
Yeah, that's all the more
Going to
reason.
require.
That's all the more reason, in my opinion, to keep it as it is, as proposed, and then react once that decision's made.
But if you look at the decision, if you go to the 20 firefighters based on the sheet provided, that 62,000 is almost a police officer based on that savings.
I'm sure that doesn't include the raises and the
No, it does.
and
Of course it does.
For the police, you mean?
the legacy costs and things like that.
Right. It absolutely does not. And again, I think what we're missing here is, we said earlier about the police department, the fire department is no different. You can look at what the cost of doing business goes up every year. We darn near have to eliminate a position and a half a year in both these departments to keep the budget level. Our revenue is not growing at any pace that parallels these larger departments, and what the cost of just maintaining the service we have increases. We have too many perks in both these organizations. We just have to, I'm not saying that they're not, they're bad perks. I'm just saying we can't afford them. I mean, this is just a matter of what we can afford. So if you find a way to afford it this year, what will you do next year? Like, keeping our fingers crossed, method isn't there. We know we're 2 years away from seeing increased revenue on assessments, which implies that we would raise taxes anyway. I don't know if anyone has the stomach for that. So, and it really wouldn't matter what we're talking about. You tell me to add it from. Right now, this budget has no money anywhere. So the next question is, where are we getting it from? Again, I suspect I knew this was coming because it hadn't been happening during the budget workshops, but it's perfectly fine to want to add something, but you have to tell me what we're taking away.
Let's talk about account 2801, interfund transfers of $812,876. What's the source of the interfund balance? Transferring.
Water and sewer, Counselor.
You're calling for a modification of 5% from that, correct? And your adjustments?
The adjustments, what had been suggested by some members of council, was we not raise water rates this year.
You jump into the comptroller's office. 34.7% increase, 104,000. And we're estimating, and through assessments, a 240% increase in assessments. I believe one of the, I don't know who it was up there earlier, said that we won't be seeing assessments, the benefit of assessments for 2 years. But we're budgeting $365,226 for this year. The difference is 258.
That's so we can do a reval, so we can increase revenues.
Can't have one without the other.
$300,000 to get to set up an
The city.
reevaluation process.
Yeah, well, it's a citywide, as I understand it, it's a citywide reval, and they've gotten 2 estimates, and that's the price.
So is there a consensus for Dan's?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think we got 3 yeses. That's it.
Okay, what's up next?
I just wish we had, the county took $1.5 million from us. Obviously, when you generate $4 to $4.5 million through your property tax, it's like take a quarter of, your funds, sales tax, and this is the situation that we're in. I think it's a great budget with a 10% reduction in taxes, which is absolutely necessary, and while maintaining the services we can for a community of 10,000 people. And so I'm happy with the way it is as amended.
Well, with that being said, John, going forward, I mean, what do we have? We don't have an agreement with the county. We've got them filing a lawsuit against us over the collection of property taxes. And we won't know if we have preempt sales tax agreement for the city of Ogdensburg to preempt until probably April 1. So that's,
Yeah, there's a lot up in the air, and
yeah, it sure is.
thank the legislator from Montana, Oswegatchie.
So we're gonna vote on this thing and get it over with, or what are we doing?
Yeah, I made a motion. I think Steve seconded it. Did you second it? To adopt as amended? Kathy, did you get that?
Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
I don't know, is there more discussion?
We sit here all night discussing.
We could.
Ain't gonna get
So-
nowhere.
Let me ask you this, what about the beach? Would you take 15,000 off in that?
Yes, sir.
So we have a private entity that's gonna build a beach upriver of the city, open to the public. So why are we putting money into a beach right now?
Well,
until
number
we know
one,
for
we
sure?
don't know what they're gonna do. They've said what their intention is, and
They said that 20 years ago and haven't done anything, so.
that, you know what I mean?
Hey, there's
So, I mean, it's one thing, I can tell you tomorrow I'm gonna develop, right next to them. But you know what? Might never happen. A lot of people have come in here and said they're gonna develop this or do that. What happens? Nothing.
So one thing I'd like to do this year then is let's get the sampling done and things and make sure that we can open a beach before we do actually spend the money that's in the budget. So we tried to do that last year.
I think that's
pretty much
that's
the game plan.
that's the approach that we've taken. You have to
Gotta get a
you have
certificate.
to have site control. That's why we got a lease. We were optimistic that, and we did the testing simultaneously. And, well, we're ready to go as long as the state gives us the permit, so.
So if the school board does come back and they want to use our SRO, if, say like they're not with the sheriff's department, they don't like their facts or their figures, is that something that we would entertain hiring another officer to be an SRO?
Yes, ma'am, we'd have to. I'd bring it back.
I'd much rather see the school district take that money and hire 3 private school resource officers and have one at each school, but nobody wants to listen to that. And the school just spends money like it's growing on trees, so.
Morristown did it for years.
I think that it's a whole new situation with the COVID inside the school systems. The amount of depression and mental health issues has increased at least 100%. It's more than doubled. It's unreal. An SRO is so important.
So why not have 3? That's my point.
One for each school?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought your point was to
No, you could,
take one officer and spread it between different districts.
no,
No,
take-
they can hire retired police officers like the other school districts do. And they would have enough money with the grant money they get to have one in each school.
I don't know how the setup of that would work with our own police department and the interaction. I know that.
Well, other schools do it.
and it's 29.9 as long as they don't break the $30,000 threshold. So you could conceivably for $90,000, the school, and they would be the school's employees. And they would be their, in case there was litigation or anything, it would fall back on them.
Well, that's up to the school then.
Well, that's my point. That's what John's point was, that the fact is just spending money. And why is any of the other school, why should one person be in one school and not the other? I think all the kids are important.
Well, I think we all agree on that.
I think you'd agree, you probably know some retired police officers make a pretty good school resource officer too.
Better than somebody who was not a retired police officer, but I think an active police officer would be the best option for school, but I'm not going to tell the school their business.
Well,
You know.
generally someone gets older like that, they're more level-headed and they make better decisions and interact better with kids.
No, it was just, I know, I guess my impression was maybe off topic, but they were looking for somebody relatable to the kids. That's why they liked having a younger, experienced officer in there, just for the simple fact that it was somebody relatable, easier to talk to. I'm sure, a kid would feel more comfortable going to talk to a younger officer that maybe could relate
So
to
you'd
him.
rather have one at one school and not 3 at 3 schools.
I thought Officer Vine did a fantastic job.
You don't want one at each school. You want
I'm not saying I wouldn't want one at each school. I'm saying that I thought the situation that they had worked well. I mean, I witnessed them at Medill School many times when I was there volunteering for different events and PTO and things like that, and the interaction. You know, I witnessed the DARE program. My daughter went through it over at Kennedy, and the interactions that she had with them. And you know, I was under the impression that the program was working well. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of what the school district does, as I'm not privy to that information. I'm just saying I think that the kids relate to someone, you know, who they see more on their level rather than an older individual. That's just my point of view. It's really not pertinent to this topic. I'm just stating my opinion.
I'd like to call the
There comes a training component and a liability component as well that comes with that job. And I'm not saying that a retired police officer or any officer of the law couldn't maintain that, but we initially had the SRO in the plan, and somewhere it went awry. And, you know, those discussions can be had, and they should be had, whether it's one in one building or covering all 3 buildings or 3 in 1.
Yeah, I would agree.
Is there more discussion? Because we have a second here. Do we want to vote or do we want to continue discussion line by line?
So that was all the stuff I had.
Those are my 2 main topics. So
Mike, do you have anything?
Nope.
I would like to see money put into a fishing tournament, and instead of 3,000, I think the city should back up with fee like we had before. And I think it would be well worth the investment in the city to change that number from 3,000 to 50. You know, and put aside. I think economic development is very important. The communities all around us are doing this, and we're the city, and we're not doing it. They come here and fish in front of Augsburg. I think it would benefit all the businesses in this city. I'd like to see it happen. I don't know about the rest of this, but
no, I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe we could take it up at a later date, let the Recreation Commission, the planning director or the recreation director take a look at it.
I definitely think the
Maybe we
revenue.
can amend later on to do it. I don't know. But right now, we're pretty tight.
And I definitely think that eventually you'd see the revenue offset. I mean, we were working on the fishing tournament, the Major League Fishing. I mean, the people that was bringing in, let alone, you know, extracurricular sales and sales tax that would bring in seemed pretty significant. So, and I know a lot of times, last time the county was going to put in a large chunk of it too. So hopefully we can see that.
Let us reach out. I think we'll start getting inquiries for next year. Let us reach out, and if something we get in their term viable, we'll come to council with the proposal on what the cost might be and cost benefit analysis of it.
okay.
Yep.
Maybe for this summer.
Yeah, the calls will start soon.
I know they like to talk early.
I do.
Yeah.
I think we have businesses that are interested in donating. All right.
I just wanted to point out last minute here that, you know, the state's decision to close Ogdensburg Correctional Facility has major ramifications for people that work there and their families. But, you know, it also results in $200,000 out of our budget as a user. That's huge. I mean,
Significant.
they have us do a $43 million project, then they take the revenue. I mean, I don't know who does the planning, and then you got the county taking 1.5 million from us, and the state doesn't give us a home rule. I mean, it'd be nice if
somebody stepped up.
yeah, you had some, you know, if people listen in Albany and you actually had some people helping you with these issues. That's what we need to work on next year. I'm ready to vote.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
So this is a vote on a resolution to adopt the 2022 preliminary budget as amended. Counselor Kennedy,
No.
Counselor Powers?
No.
I'm sorry, sir.
No.
Counselor Reese?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
No.
Mayor Skelly? Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Denied.
You guys just voted to go down to 18 officers. Congratulations.
Have until the 15th to make a final decision.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A local law to allow for the changes to the Augsburg Municipal Code, Section 177, entitled Sewer Rates, as dictated by the adoption of the 2020. Hang on a second. So because the sewer rates and the water rates are tied to the budget, we won't be able to act on those. So I would recommend we'll just hold off on these two resolutions as well.
All those weren't amended based on
Budget.
those revisions. Okay.
Yep, there is, I mean, I presented you all the sheets, so I mean, we can, hang on a second.
So now the tax, now that what, the sewer rate can't go up either? I mean, is that what
Just voted down the budget.
I approved it.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Eliminate those two and three
Just put on hold.
Our next item of business will be read by City Comptroller Angela Gray.
So are we tabling that? Just with
Not being introduced.
Okay.
A resolution to amend the 2021 budget to include the receipt of the Financial Restructuring Board allocation in the amount of $1,500,000 to be used to purchase a fire truck and offset costs associated with the reduction of firefighter positions.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Great news.
Yeah, nice work, people.
beautiful, beautiful truck.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reese?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to publicize for sale city-owned property via request for proposals. Whereas staff has reviewed the following properties and recommend that the city council declare as surplus city-owned property fit for public sale 420 Lafayette Street. And whereas said property was acquired by tax sale proceedings in accordance with real property tax law, And whereas the city manager and staff recommend sale via request for proposals to ensure prompt and beneficial reuse of the property in accordance with community plans. Be it further resolved that the deadline for responses shall be January 18th, 2022 at 2 p.m. and that all responses shall be provided in summary form to the city council at the January 24th, 2022 regular council meeting.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
I'd like to make a motion to amend it to not be an RFP, but be a public sale.
I'll second that.
I think it's just sell it and get it on the tax rolls.
That's what the local law says.
Discussion?
I'm going to stick with the RFP that we discussed last time for the same reasons.
Anyone else? Discussion? Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
So this is a motion to amend. Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
No.
Counselor Powers,
No.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
No.
approved. Mayor, now we need to vote as amended, please. We need another roll call for as amended, now that it's been amended.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
No.
Counselor Powers,
No.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
No.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Smith.
A resolution calling for a public hearing on the city's community development block grant imminent threat project entitled 2017 Flood Impact Improvements.
I'll move that.
Second it.
What, is this the riprap along the shoreline in different areas?
So this public hearing was supposed to take place on March 23rd, 2020. It was called for at the March 9th meeting, and then the 23rd meeting was the first meeting to be canceled under the COVID-19 restrictions. So the public hearing never occurred. And as you all probably remember, there was a series of events that happened immediately following the new meeting restrictions. And this public hearing got missed, admittedly, until we underwent our monitoring review by the funding agency. And it was only at that point in time did we realize that we hadn't actually complied with the requirement to hold the second public hearing. So we are required under the regulations and the grant agreement to have 2 public hearings. And this one admittedly is late, but we still have the requirement to hold it. So it's for improvements that were actually done in 2019 following the 2017 flood events. So it's,
Okay, we can get that going.
Sounds good.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
sorry, I just want to say, so what I didn't get to read in the resolution is that this public hearing will not be held until January 10th of 2022 because the next meeting does not comply with the required posting for CDBG public hearings. So it will be in January, your first meeting, January 10th at 6 p.m.
Did anybody motion? Oh, I'll motion.
It's been
Oh,
moved and seconded.
Thank you, Andrew. Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A resolution declaring that the 1994 E1 Quint fire truck is surplus property and authorizing the city manager to dispose of this surplus property by the informal procedure of sealed bids, public auction, and/or internet auction. Whereas the city of Augsburg owns a 1994 E1 Quint fire truck, whereas the property has become obsolete over time and will be replaced, and whereas the fire chief has recommended that the property be deemed a surplus item, and whereas in accordance with the state finance law, the city council declares the described fire truck to be surplus property and directs the city manager to dispose of the surplus property in accordance with city administrative procedures. And whereas the city council further directs the city comptroller to delete this surplus property from the inventory of the city once disposed of by the city manager. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city council hereby authorize the city manager to dispose of the 1994 E1 Quint fire truck by the informal procedure of sealed bids, public auction, and/or internet auction. Be it further resolved, said surplus item shall be sold as is condition without any warranty as to condition.
I'll move that.
Second.
So we have a provision under our administrative procedures for internet auction. We can do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll probably look at all the procedures and see which is best. There's been a number of fire truck sales in the area. Watertown just had some success using one of these auction processes. So we're going to look to find which one we think will bring the best pull for the truck.
Kathy, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly.
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
approved.
Next item of business will be read by City Comptroller Angela Brent.
The resolution to disperse a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act funding to nonprofit organizations and small businesses and to allocate the general money to the general fund. So the resolution is, whereas the city of Ogdensburg has been awarded an American Rescue Plan Act coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund allocation in the amount of $1,066,004, and whereas $533,002 will be received in the 2021 fiscal year, and whereas these funds are to be used to mitigate the economic fallout of the coronavirus pandemic and to support communities and populations impacted by the pandemic, and whereas the City Council has approved the allocation of $100,000 to the general fund to be used for lost revenues in the years 2020 and 2021, and whereas the City Council has approved the allocation of a portion of the funding to nonprofit organizations and small businesses, and whereas the availability of funding was publicized and applications have been received and reviewed by staff. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Comptroller is authorized to transfer $100,000 to the general fund and disperse $78,000 to nonprofit organizations and $40,500 to small businesses in the total amount of $118,500 as designated on the attached spreadsheet. We have one modification. Since this resolution was published, we've learned that one of the small businesses who was set to receive an award of $2,500 has moved out of the city. So we wish to change that amount going to small businesses down from $40,500 to $38,000. And therefore, the total amount to be funded at this time would be $116,000.
I'll move that.
Second.
I have a quick question. I don't know if, and Angela, you might, or Steve might be able to answer this for me. Recognizing some of the values that are going forward, are they for general? I mean, does it stipulate in the ARPAs in any way that it's has to be designated as operations? I know it's not a PPP loan or anything of that nature. I mean, in other words, I guess, is this going to the right place for all these entities and not to an administrator for certain, whether it be a salary stipend that they may receive in these organizations or whatever the case may be? Is there any stipulations in that?
Fair question. The legislative language requires the recipient to use it to combat COVID in their organization and to have shown a need due to loss. So a bit vague, Counselor. We did go through the process of making sure they did have an impact in their business or not-for-profit due to COVID. They will report back to us the use of the money, but whether their revenue or loss shortfall, went to personal protection equipment for COVID or it went to supplement salaries that may not otherwise be able to be sustained in the organization or small business, that's theirs to determine.
So we'll get a recording as to how it's spent, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Couple of items of personal interest I know we discussed was the Boys Club and
Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club, I'm sorry. And Veterans of Foreign Wars, I appreciate you getting them a little more. Thank you. Than our last discussion, that is.
Thank you, Angela. Kathy, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
approved.
And this brings us to old business. Does anyone have any old business?
Yeah, on the issue of the prison closure, I've written a resolution for everybody's consideration. I'd like to read that, introduce it tonight if I could. It's a resolution requesting the state of New York to reconsider its decision to close the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility, and whereas the state of New York has announced that it plans to close the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility in Ogdensburg, New York, and whereas this will result in the loss of over 250 local jobs and a corresponding loss of over 15 million in annual payroll in Ogdensburg and St. Lawrence County. And whereas the state's decision-making criteria and prison closures failed to take into consideration the social economic condition of this county and how such a closure adds to abject poverty that already exists in St. Lawrence County. And whereas St. Lawrence County has a poverty rate of 18.9%, the second highest poverty rate in New York State's 62 counties. And whereas roughly 26.6% of the children residing in St. Lawrence County live below the poverty level. And whereas St. Lawrence County has a per capita income of $25,378 according to the United States Census, which is one of the lowest per capita incomes in the entire state of New York State. And whereas this poor decision to eliminate state jobs in one of the poorest counties in the entire state was short-sighted and failed to consider the poverty in St. Lawrence County and will only exacerbate the chronic poverty and low-income rates in St. Lawrence County. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Ogdensburg requests that the State of New York reverse its decision to close the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. Be it further resolved that the state redo its criteria to take into consideration the social economic conditions of a county or region when determining which facilities to close. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to Senator Patty Ritchie and Assemblyman Mark Walczyk, and that this council urges them to bring this economic data to the attention of state leaders. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to Governor Kathy Hochul, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, Assembly Speaker Carl Hesty, and New York State Department of Corrections Acting Commissioner Anthony J. Annunzi. I so move.
I'll second it. I think it's a good resolution, John.
I'd like to, I appreciate the effort, John, putting this together. I'd like to add a little bit. I'd like to bounce this off some of you guys here. A little bit as far as the last whereas. I'd like to add, it's kind of lengthy. I put this together shortly after I saw John's resolution. Some of it needs some housekeeping, obviously. It needs to be reviewed, just a couple of typo errors. But as the last whereas, I'd like to add a whereas that reads the North Country, the North Country has already seen the impact of the New York State Department of Corrections Community Supervision's previous closure decisions. These decisions, like the current proposal, have been characterized by a complete lack of planning for the reuse of the facilities and the impact on the affected local communities. As of this time, the following facilities have already been closed in the North Country: Camp Gabriel's 2009, Chattagay Correctional in 2014, Lion Mountain Correctional Facility 2011, Clinton Correctional Facility Annex 2021, Watertown Correctional Facility 2021. Not even one of these facilities have been repurposed, redeveloped, or sold. They remain vacant and deteriorating, along with over 500,000 square feet of vacant New York State-owned buildings at the St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center in Ogdensburg. Collectively, these facilities and this space add no value to their communities, to the state of New York, or to the residents of the North Country. It's unacceptable for New York State to close productive, successful facilities in our region while failing to plan for the reuse, as it has for decades with the facilities that are already closed. I know it's a lot, but
Well,
you know,
why don't we adopt this one and at our next meeting, bring another one making those points so that we just reiterate, you know,
well,
this
the
one
reason I
needs.
do that, the reason I ask is to piggyback some of the work that we've been working with Senator Ritchie and some of her people in her office, as far as looking to put a, you know, to push for a pause on this to garner some attention. But listen, I just wanted to throw that out there. I read your resolution; it was very well done, and I just felt that this was relevant information to add to it. And that's just my thought. That's just my thought on it. I mean, I can forward that to Kathy and have her added if approved, or we can do whatever you suggest. But
I'd like to add it. I think just to, as Mike said, kind of force the cohesion with the other groups that are doing this.
That's
If you
fine.
wouldn't mind,
That's fine.
and I think it makes sense.
I just thought there might be,
It just points out the reuse purpose, and that's what,
well, there's so many points to
Yeah.
make. It's
so
that's
many
why I
points.
thought another resolution would be, you know, at our next meeting, but that's fine. I'm fine with that.
You know, I had some additions. I don't know if it's necessary now, but I'll throw them at you.
Well, that's
So
what,
maybe if we do come up with another resolution to back it up, we can reword those or stick them in there. Harry, want to pass them over to Steve and Kathy as well? And just, you know, it just talks a little bit about the history, whereas in the late 1980s, New York State faced a major crisis. State officials faced major opposition from New York City and Long Island. One of the biggest ones that I know I had mentioned to you this morning would be the third whereas. At a time when most communities flatly refused, oh no, it would be the fourth one. Whereas almost 40 years, New York has seen the wisdom of that decision by enjoying the benefits of a well-run facility where employees and inmates are safer than those in downstate facilities. You know, I thought that was an important whereas to stick in there, especially in light of the inmates writing. And I found some information this weekend, or somebody shared with me, John Pinkerton, in fact, about the state sending up incarcerated persons who have had a number of incidents in other prisons, and they come here and there's almost no incidents when you compare it to other prisons. I don't know how accurate that is, Mike, but John was sharing that information with me. They were looking at some statistics and the incredible low incident rate. It almost makes Ogdensburg a model for this reform movement going on with the prison systems and things like that. And if we don't want to do this stuff now, maybe like you said, we can do a backup later.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. Just keep sending them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but Ogdensburg.
you know what? Let's send this one, and we can tweak another one that just piggybacks a lot of what the the North Country Alliance is doing, from what I understand, and we'll go with that. Just make sure before it goes out that it's vetted and the spelling's correct in some of them. I only see one mistake, but, you know, and it's minuscule really, but, you know,
So we want to vote to amend it to Mike's comments first, and then
I
vote
thought
on
you just said we're just gonna go with this one and then
Just go with
it.
Yeah, so hold off on the stuff I gave. We'll save this stuff for another one.
Yeah, I
Follow
mean,
up.
we can send them,
We can put it out, like, we have a meeting next Monday, so we can have it all
Yeah,
together.
take Mike's stuff and his stuff and put them on the next resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just vote on this one and get it going, get it to their attention.
Okay.
so
So-
I'll pull my amendment, Kathy, for now.
Thank you.
We've got the language captured, Counselor Powers, so we'll craft that into the information that Counselor Scamperly has given us for the next one, for next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe we can get some actual stats on the low incident rate. Sure. I'm sure that the team is putting something together, so. All right.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
And this brings us to new business. Does anyone have any new business?
Mayor, just a point, we just got off real quick. Tomorrow, there is another meeting scheduled of the group, or I'm sorry, Wednesday at 3:30 at the Quality of Life Center. Follow up to the meeting a couple weeks ago. I sent it to all your emails, so
Yeah, I
so you've got it.
responded.
Okay, great.
I would be attending.
Paul, I mean, who's going to attend, just let me know so I can get back to the senator's staff. They're trying to plan for a head count.
Well, that might be problematic because we've got a bi-monthly meeting down here in Saratoga that'll require the stewards from all the facilities to be in attendance. But doesn't mean that the meeting can't go on. But I don't know if you'll have your chief sector steward from Ogdensburg and Riverview or any, you know, you'll have other stewards there. There's many other stewards, union stewards that'll be present. But just as a heads up.
Yeah, understood. And I'll let Sarah know in the morning when I give her the head count.
And this brings us to items for discussion. Does anyone have any items for discussion? And this brings us to citizens' participation. At this time, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. About 2 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Penny Sharrow, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Yeah, so I just want to mention the SRO, since Nicole brought it up. Having worked in the school district for a number of years, I had a few occasions spoke to Officer Grady and Officer Tabine. That's the level where you want to get to these kids, where you want to show that the police are approachable. You want to show them that they can listen, and you teach them respect for them. I think it's an integral part of what we're doing in this day and age. If the school district, and I say if because I'm kind of dubious about this whole thing, if they went to the county, I hope you are aware of the fact that last year, and I'm not sure of the reasons why, but the school district did pay 100% for that SRO officer. And he was pulled a number of times to go back out in the streets. That indicated to me that they needed another officer. Why would you pull an SRO that's being paid by a different entity and putting him back out in the street? There has to be some rationale for this. And it was being done during the school day. So they were kind of paying for somebody to be out on the street. So I mean, there were a lot of questions about it, but I don't want to make it look like the school district automatically went to the county because they wanted to do that. Maybe it's because they didn't want their SRO officer pulled for any random purpose that could be out there. So I think an SRO officer is very important in school district, and I would think that would be a reason to hire one extra person and put him on in the summer. And if he has a school vacations or whatever the case may be, put him on in the summer and put him on the streets then. But there has to be some way that you can keep that SRO officer and have it come from our own police force where they may come in contact with these kids somewhere down the road. That's just my opinion, and I agree with Nicole and Dan. I think there needed to be 3 more officers added, just for their well-being. Thank you very much.
The next individual is registered as Michael Tooley, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Tooley. I live at 214 Hamilton Street. First, when you revisit the 2022 budget at your next meeting, while at the end of the day, certain line items were not adjusted as some may like, staffing of police and fire may not be at levels that some prefer, I would encourage you to adopt the 2022 budget as amended this evening. Not to do so hurts the city. For those who wanted to make a point tonight, the point was made, but the budget that's proposed by the city manager just cannot become the budget for the city in 2022. Second, discussion with regards to the revaluation of property assessments. As I said at an earlier meeting, I agree it's necessary. I'm glad there's money in the budget to proceed. But the primary goal should be to maintain an equalization rate of 100%, making assessments as fair as they can be for all the properties in the city. But I think it's premature to assume that an increase in assessments will result in an increase in property tax revenue. There doesn't necessarily need to be an increase in the tax levy at the time of reassessment. You don't have to keep the tax rate at the level at the time the new assessments come into effect. Instead, you can set a lower rate, generate modest increase in the levy depending on needs on the expense side, but the goal of reassessment should not be to generate more property tax revenue. It should be to keep things fair and equal. Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Doug Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Just listening to the comments tonight about the SRO, I have a couple concerns, questions concerning that. I know there's a contract between the city and the school district concerning this position. Was the city supposed to supply an officer by September 1st? And my next question would be, was there any correspondence held between the city and the school district over the summer months concerning this position? There seems to be a lot of discussion, a lot of finger pointing concerning this position. And this is my opinion and my opinion only. I think there's some underlying factors concerning this position. Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Phil Clemens, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. Mr. Clemens, it appears you are self-muted. Not getting any response, Mayor. What would you like me to do?
Move on.
I do not see any other hands raised.
We have a need for executive session tonight to discuss medical, financial, credit, employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and to discuss proposed pending or current litigation, and we anticipate there may be action. I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
approved.
Kathy, what do I do? Do I stay online here? How do I do this?
You will need to mute yourself. It's best if you remove yourself from the room you're in, and you will be receiving a phone call shortly on your cell.
So log out, log back in when we
No,
come
no,
back
no,
in?
sir. No. Do not log back out. Are you using your cell phone right now for your device to participate?
No, I'm
Okay,
on a
so-
laptop.
All right, if you just self-mute, I'll mute you as well. And then you will be getting a cell phone call in just a few moments, sir.
Very good. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
Just so you're all aware, you're still live.
Okay, thank you.
Still live.
Thanks for that warning.
One more? These four are going down and this one's not.
Did have Steve read it?
Mayor Taylor, she's there. Guess we got a line. For what? Oh. Let the record reflect that all members of the council are still present. And what's in action, Steve?
A resolution selecting a preferred developer for 17 Main Street. Whereas a request for proposals regarding the potential sale of 0.92 acres of city-owned property located at 17 Main Street was issued by the city of Ogdensburg on October 4th, 2021, with responses due on October 29, 2021. And whereas the city of Ogdensburg has received one joint proposal that has been reviewed by city staff and presented to the city council for consideration. And whereas the city council finds that it is in the best interest of the public that it select a proposal submitted in advance, submitted to advance the economic development of the community and the Marina District, and to authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations with the preferred developer to formulate a proposed written purchase agreement. And whereas any proposed purchase agreement negotiated by the city manager shall not be binding on the city of Ogdensburg until such agreement shall have been approved by the city council pursuant to the provisions of General City Law, Section 23 2B, and whereas the city council has selected the joint proposal of River Street Brewing Company and At the Docks LLC, and provides up to 120 days for both parties to conduct necessary and proper due diligence. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the city council of the city of Ogdensburg, New York, that the city manager is authorized to enter into negotiations with River Street Brewing Company and At the Docks LLC for the purpose of formulating a proposed purchase agreement for the sale of city-owned property generally described above, which proposed agreement shall be subject to approval by the city council in accordance with the terms and conditions of this resolution.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
I'd prefer it if it wasn't 120 days and it was either 60 or 90, if that's possible. I mean, that's 4 months. I mean, wow.
It's a winner.
I know government's slow, but are we that slow?
Slower than a sleeping snail, usually, unfortunately.
Are we going into hibernation for 4 months?
3 days.
I don't think so. Again, council really be us. I think the parties need to hire an engineer firm. And I think if our experience is anything, a lot of them are backed up, including just simple land surveys are backed up and just take some time to get the work scheduled and get it done.
It can be done sooner.
Yeah, we'll bring it as, just as we did when the proposal came in, we'll move it just as soon as they bring us stuff. Remember, all these have regulatory agency, consultations to make, et cetera.
Thank you. Sorry, sir.
No worries. I don't think the 120 days is much of a stretch. I mean, you've got problems with contractors getting materials now. The winter's flying. It's if they can get off the ground and rolling as quick as possible, that's great. But this stuff doesn't happen overnight.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
At this time, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Yep.
All right.
I think
Opposed?
they developed